Alright, so this is lesson 12.2, describe angles in plane shapes. So our essential question today is, how can you describe angles in plane shapes? So what is an angle? So an angle is formed by two rays that share an endpoint. And as we remember from my explanation as to what a ray is a line that has an endpoint and then it keeps going in another direction. So this right here is an angle, okay, the angle, and it's what is between the two lines. And then the endpoint, in this case, because it comes with two rays, it's called a vertex because it's a corner now. Plane shapes have angles formed by two line segments that share an endpoint. The shared endpoint is called the vertex. The plural of vertex is vertices. Okay, so it says that Jason drew the shape on dot paper. So this is Jason's shape. How many angles are in Jason's shape? Okay, so sorry, but my more shaky hand is gonna have to hold the camera. Okay, so here are all the angles. The angles are where all the vertices are. So the little C's that I drew, or the little loops, those are all the angles. So in Jason's case, he has 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 angles. So there are 4 angles in Jason's shape. Now it says, look at the angles in the shape that Jason drew. How can you describe the angles? So now we're going to describe them. So a right angle is an angle that forms a square corner. So he actually has 2 right angles because there's 2 angles here that make right angles or corners. Okay? So there are 2 angles that are right angles. Some angles are less than a right angle. Less means that a right angle would be going this way. Okay, so if we had a line like this making an L, okay, that would be my right angle. But because this angle is much smaller, right, the alligator's mouth is closing, then that means that this is less than a right angle. These type of angles are also called acute angles. It's because, and they're called acute because they're just so cute. Just kidding. So there is one angle that is less than a right angle. Less. And the reason that they say less is because of the fact that a right angle in degrees, which you will learn later on in 4th grade, a right angle is 90 degrees, and anything that is less than 90 degrees, so like 89 degrees, 70 degrees, and this is not temperature degrees, these are degrees of angles, so you're going to be learning all this in 4th grade, but I figured that you guys can already start learning the lingo a little bit. So anything less than 90, those are acute angles or less than a right angle. Then there's one angle over here. Okay, so if this was my right angle, okay, this alligator's mouth is actually bigger than my right angle. It's bigger than the square. It's opening up this way. So when the alligator's mouth is getting big and wide, right, those are angles that are greater than a right angle. Okay, so that would be obtuse. Obtuse, big angle. So his has 1 angle that is greater than a right angle. And if you can think of anything in your house that are some examples of angles that you see in everyday life, so like the corners of desks, that would be right angles. The corners of tables, that would be right angles. For acute angles, maybe if you open up the page, like right now my page is acute because it's making a small, and then but when the book is open like this, right, it's big and it's wide, so it's making a obtuse angle, big angle. Okay. All right, for this next part we're going to be modeling some angles. So you're going to want a straw, okay, preferably bendy, and if you don't have a straw, that's okay. And you're going to want also a piece of paper. Okay, so it says to cut a small slit in the shorter section of the straw, of the bendable straw, cut off the shorter section of a second straw and the bendable part, and insert the slit end of the first straw into the second straw. So as you can see there, it's a diagram to show you how to do it. You're going to make an angle with the straws you put together and compare the angles that you made to a corner on a sheet of paper. We're going to open and close the straws to make other types of angles. So in the space below, you're going to trace the angles you made with the straws and label each as right angle, less than a right angle, or greater than a right angle. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this. Okay, so we're going to cut slit and put this down at an angle. Okay, so I'm going to cut a slit. Make sure you are very careful with scissors if you're doing this. Okay, so it just says not all the way. So I just cut a little bit, not all the way. Okay, and then it says to, off the second one, cut off completely the bendy part. So that's what I did. And then I'm going to insert one side to the other. Okay, so now they're inserted. So now I can make my angles. So, discussing angles, okay, a right angle makes a straight corner. So that's the one I'm going to start with, a corner. Okay, as you can see here, so I'm going to put this against the black so you can see it a little bit better. See how this corner is straight? That is a right angle. Okay, when your corner is straight. Anything less than that becomes acute or less than a right angle. So right now this is less than a right angle because it is less than the corner of my paper. Okay, and less than a right angle could go all the way to almost nothing. Okay, so anything here until you reach a right angle, that is less than a right angle. Now, greater than a right angle, okay, you go back to a right angle, and it's as the alligator's mouth is getting bigger. So anything greater, more than this white paper corner, see, like this would be an obtuse angle or greater than a right angle. So that's what this is looking for. So in the corner, if you were able to get your straws, okay, I'm going to have to put this down for a second. So I'm going to draw my angles. Okay, so right now I'm making a right angle. I'm gonna close my alligator's mouth a little bit to make a cute angle, and then I'm gonna open it nice and wide to make my obtuse angle. So here are my angles that I made in my straw. So this would be a right angle. This would be less than a right angle, and then here is greater than a right angle. Greater. Okay. So in this next part, it's asking how many angles are in the triangle at the right. So we just count all the corners. 1, 2, 3. So since this is a triangle, it has the prefix tri, which means 3, and it says triangle, meaning that it's 3 angles. So a triangle's name actually tells you how many angles it has. Okay, so it says, how do you know an angle is greater than or less than a right angle? And if it is more open, it is greater. And if it is more closed, it is less. So now we're going to use the corner of a sheet of paper to tell whether the angle is a right angle or less than a right angle or greater than a right angle. So which angle are they talking about? They're talking about the one that the blue lines are making. So we're not looking at any other angle except this corner here. So for this corner here, we see that a right angle would be like this. So this is greater than a right angle because the alligator's mouth is bigger. Angle. Okay, for the second one, or this one, our right angle would be here. So this one is actually less than a right angle. And this angle over here is making a perfect square, so that is a right angle. So that is this page here. Over here, we're going to write how many of each type of angle the shape has. So now we're going to look at all the angles. So first, I like to circle all the angles that my shape has. So this shape has 5 angles. So I need to make sure that all the ones I'm putting here are equal to 5. So a right angle, we have here right, right, and right. Those are easy because you find the squares. So it has 3 right angles. Now, to figure out if these are big angles or little angles, I'm just going to look. A right angle would go straight. This one is going bigger than the right. So this one's bigger. So I'm going to put here greater. G for greater. And those are R's for right angles. Then this one, okay, also the right angle would go straight like this. So this one's also greater than a right angle. So this one shape actually has 2 angles that are greater than a right. And like I said, I only have 5 angles here, and 3 plus 2 is 5. So that means I put all my angles, so less than a right, that would be 0. Okay. For the next one. Okay, again, I'm going to circle all my angles so I know how many total I have. Now I'm going to look. How many right? I don't have any, so 0 right angles. Now we're going to look at each angle. So a right angle in this one would go straight up this way. So this one, this alligator's mouth is small, so this is an L for less than a right angle. This one, the right angle would go straight this way, so this one is actually greater than a right angle. For this one, it would also go straight this way, so this one would be greater than a right angle too. And this one here, the right angle would be here, so this is less than a right angle, so an L. So now that I can see how many L's and how many G's I have, for less than a right angle, I have 2 of them. And for greater than a right angle, I also have 2 of them. And 2 plus 2 is 4, so I have all my angles. Finally, in this last shape, I'm going to circle all my angles that I have. So I have 4 of them, and they all have squares, square corners, so they are all right angles. So I have 4 right angles. Since I already put all the angles I have, that means I have 0 that are less than a right angle and 0 that are greater than a right angle. All right, so you could pause the video now to do the on your own part in your homework. Come back to the video to check it once you're done. Okay, you should have finished your on your own part at this point. So you had to use the corner of a sheet of paper to tell whether the angle is a right angle, less than a right angle, or greater than a right angle. In this case, we're looking at this corner here. Okay. So a right angle, if we follow this line, okay, it would have been straight, or you could have done it this way, straight too. So this corner here is less than a right angle. Or number 9, we're going to be looking at this corner here, and because it makes a square, we know that this is a right angle. And finally, we're going to be here in this corner here. So a right angle would, this is straight, go straight this way. So then this would be greater than a right angle. You're going to now analyze relationships, write how many of each type of angle the shape has. So I'm going to count. This has 1, 2, 3 angles. So 3 angles. I've got 1 here that's a right angle. And then these angles here are small angles. They're so cute, so small. So they are less than a right angle. So that's 2 less, and 2 plus 1 is 3, so there are 0 greater than. Okay. For this next one, we have 4 angles. Okay, and they are all making square corners. So because they're all making square corners, they're all right. So that means there are 4 right angles, 0 that are less than a right, and 0 that are greater than a right. For this one here, I have 4 corners here. Okay, these 2 are rights. This one is making a small mouth, a small alligator mouth, so this is less than. And this one's making a wide, big, open alligator mouth, so this is greater than. So there are two right angles, one less than a right angle, and one greater than a right angle. Okay. Describe the types of angles formed when you divide a circle into 4 equal parts. So if we take a circle and we divide it into 4 equal parts, meaning fourths, what kind of angles do we make? So here you would see that we make 4 right angles. These don't count as angles because they're making curves, and angles are straight lines, so those don't count. But these in the center make 4 right angles. Okay. It says that Holly drew 4 of the shapes below. Which shape does not have a right angle? So what do we need to know? Which shape does not have a right angle? Tell how might you use a sheet of paper to solve the problem. Paper corners have right angles, so I can compare it to all the angles. So we're going to start off with the shape Q. Okay, and I'm just going to cut a little piece of the paper, just the corner, so I'm not using a huge paper. So here's my right angle. So Q does seem to have a right angle there, and a right angle there. So I'm going to say that these two are right angles. I'm going to look over here. This angle is less than a right angle. See how the paper covers it? So if the paper is covering it, it is less than a right angle. So this is an L for less. Okay, and then this one here, I line it up. Okay, this angle here is greater because the paper is not covering it, so this is greater. So now I can look. Q shape has 2 right angles and 1 angle that is greater than a right angle and 1 angle that is less than a right angle. Now we're going to look at R shape. So R, look carefully, all of the corners are exactly right angles. So all of these are right angles. That's why this is R. So shape R has 4 right angles, 0 that are greater and 0 that are less. Next, shape S. Okay, so shape shape S, if we look closely, here's my right angle. This makes a perfect right angle. This makes a perfect right angle. It's down for a second. This makes a perfect right angle. In the last corner, this makes a perfect right angle. So S also has 4 right angles. So shape S has 4 right angles, 0 angles that are greater, and 0 angles that are less. Finally, T. So again, here's my piece of paper. Okay, this angle, okay, is being covered, so that's less than a right angle. This angle here is greater than a right angle. This angle here is getting covered, so it is less than a right angle. And this angle here is not getting covered, so it's greater than. So we have 2 graters and 2 less. Okay, so it has 0 right angles. It has 2 angles that are greater and 2 angles that are less. So the one that doesn't have any right angles would be T. Shape T does not have any right angles. Finally, circle a number or word from each box to complete the sentence to describe all the angles in the shape. So here's all the angles here. Okay, so here would be right, right, and this would be greater, 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 and greater. So there are 2 right angles, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 angles that are greater than a right angle. And time for homework. Okay, now for the homework part. So the first one is already done for you. You had to use a corner of a sheet of paper to tell whether the angle is a right angle, less than a right angle, or greater than a right angle. So in this case, this angle is less than a right angle because it's smaller. The alligator's mouth is closing. All right, it wants you to look at these 2 angles here. So both of those angles are making square corners, so they are right angles. And then over here we have a large angle. The alligator's mouth is very wide here, so this is an obtuse angle or greater than a right angle. Here we had to write how many of each type of angle the shape has. So we're gonna count all of our angles. This one has 4 of them. So since there are 4 and they're all making right corners, so this is a 4 right angles, 0 less than a right angle, and 0 greater than a right angle. For this one here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles, right? And this one's making a wide alligator mouth, so this one's greater. This one's also making a wide alligator mouth, so this is also greater. This one is wide too, so this is greater. This is also wide, and this is also wide. And if you were using a piece of paper to check that, that's okay too. You can cut a little corner and check them. So see, here's my right angle corner. So as you can see, that would be a right angle, so it's bigger. Okay, so they're all bigger, so there are 0 right angles, 0 less, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are greater. For this one here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 angles. We have 2 right angles here. This one is greater, so this is a G for greater. This one is also greater, G, and this one is also greater, greater. So there are 2 right angles. There are 0 that are less than a right angle, and there are 4 that are greater than a right angle. Okay, Jeff has a square piece of art paper. He cuts it across from one corner to the opposite corner. So he is making his square, and he cuts across it from one corner to the opposite corner to make 2 pieces. What is the total number of sides and angles in both of the new shapes? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 angles, because if we moved these triangles apart, okay, we would still get 6 sides and 6 angles. Because now we count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 sides. So there are 3 sides in each. So that would make it 6 sides and 6 angles for the 2 triangles. Draw an example of a shape that has at least 1 right angle, 1 angle that is less than a right angle, and 1 angle that is greater. So the easiest way to do this is to just make a house. So here is my 2 greater than a right, or 2 right angles. These would be my 2 greater than a right, and this would be my 1 less. So this is less, this is greater, greater, right, right. Label the angles, we already did that, and there's nothing needed to be written there. And that's the homework. Okay, for the back page it says, what describes this angle? Right angle, less than a right angle, or greater than a right. So this is the angle we're talking about. So this is greater than a right angle. Because the alligator's mouth is bigger. Right angle. How many right angles does this shape have? So we're going to count 1, 2, 3. 3 right angles. What fraction of the group is shaded? Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So 6 is my denominator. And we've got 1 shaded, so 1 is my numerator. So we have 1/6 shaded. All right, so here we will be comparing. Okay, so we can do cross multiplication, or you can see that the bottoms are the same, so we only need to look at the top. So which one's bigger, 4 or 3? That would be 4. But if you did cross multiplication, 8 times 3 gives you 24. And 8 times 4 gives you 32. So alligator wants to eat the bigger number, 32. Finally, for this one, it says, what is straight, continues in both directions, and does not end? That would be a line. How many line segments does this shape have? So it's just asking for how many sides. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 sides, 7 line segments. And that is all of the work for today. Thank you.